Hey guys, what's going on? Josh here from Polymathics, the YouTube channel that helps you become a modern day Renaissance man. And in this video, really quick as possible as I can, I'm going to try to explain characters with what I called flat characters, but they're really just characters with flat arcs. And hopefully give you guys a good explanation. There is a book, I'll try to drop a link in the description section below. It's about character arcs. I found it on the Kindle. I cannot for the life of me think of the actual name. But it goes into great detail, way better than I can do in this video, about the difference between a positive arc, negative arc, and flat arc for your hero. But I will say that it's definitely worth the money and really good. The other thing I want to keep in mind with everybody is, like, my specialty is, I would consider, the monomyth. That's what I have definitely done the most research on. And while I'm very familiar with the inner and outer journey that the hero experiences, I am by no means do I consider myself any kind of expert on character arcs. This is a topic that I actually I've explored a little bit and have definitely been trying to learn about myself, but I believe there are definitely more people out there that have written books on character arcs and know about character arcs that you probably get more definitive answer. But in my opinion, from what I've seen, especially as it relates to the monomyth, the answer you're about to get, that's how I understand and believe the monomyth dictates the character arc. Now, in most monomyth stories, we see a maturation plot, meaning that, like, the hero is going from this place where the flaw that they have, or the lie that they believe, is fueling a flaw that prevents them from reaching their full potential. And by the end of the story, they have rejected the lie, embraced the truth, and therefore there's a positive character arc. My beard is all kinds of crazy today. There's a positive character arc that propels the hero into maturation. They mature, they become fuller version of themselves. Most of the time, that is what's going to happen in hero's journey plots. Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Luke Skywalker, I mean, those are all perfect examples. However, every once in a while, you're going to come across heroes that are, some people might call static. I don't think that's the appropriate term for this particular conversation, but they're called like flat character arcs. And a flat character arc, it doesn't mean that the hero doesn't know a truth. It doesn't mean that there isn't a change or a theme going on throughout the story. It doesn't mean that the story is flat or boring. It just means that the character continues down one path and they don't turn. There is no arc, right? They don't have to make a change for good or for bad, because they pretty much know what direction they want to go, and it's the direction that they should be going. Many times in this kind of story, it's a character who has already discovered the truth and not necessarily reached their full potential, but psychologically they're about where they're going to be in life. Many westerns, many John Wayne movies, and Christopher Vogler in his book, I can't remember the exact example, but he gives a couple examples of John Wayne movies. Clint Eastwood plays these characters, and I would even say, I believe episode 4 in Star Wars, Luke is on a maturation plot, but episode 5 and 6, especially in 6, Luke is more on a flat line, and it's because he's already learned, like, okay, I need to embrace the Force. Now in the 5th one, he goes and he learns from Yoda and things like that from the Force, but by that time the truth is already with him. Now he hasn't been tested yet, which is like tested by the dark side, which is, you know, confronting Vader and things like that. But that's why I think I really believe, especially in the last one, there could be a case made either way for the fifth one, but for the sixth one, Return of the Jedi, Luke's pretty much he's a Jedi, right? And the real character arc is through Darth Vader. And we see Darth Vader go through a redemption character arc. And as a matter of fact, if you consider the prequel, the original trilogy as a whole, what we see is Vader's character arc back to the good side. So I believe that Luke is actually a flat character in, pardon me, got something in my eye, in the last movie. Now, someone else brought up a comment like, okay, well, if they're flat, does that mean that there's no character arc at all? No, that's not true. We just talked about how Vader has his own character arc. And what I've noticed personally, it seems like if there's a trilogy or an ongoing series, what you'll have is maybe the first one, the hero, or the first few, the hero like has maturation plots, but at some point they kind of hit this coasting and they're on the flat arc. And then what happens is people they come in contact with are then they're the ones that you see the arc go through. And the purpose for this, and in that the book, I'll leave the link below about character arcs, the lady mentions that it's because the character they already know the truth. And so rather than the world changing the character's belief, it is incumbent upon the character to use their truth and share it with the world. Now, this lady actually brings up Katniss Everdeen as an example of this, and I can definitely see where she's coming from. I'm not sure if I 100% agree that Katniss doesn't have a character arc in at least the first Hunger Games, but the point she makes is really interesting, which is Katniss is already kind of a rebel, right? And it's really the truth that she's been living her whole life in District 12, kind of like skirting the lines of what the rules are and what they aren't. And then she brings that truth into the district on a wide scale by totally defying the president and the games. And so in that sense, she has brought a truth to society that has revitalized it. That doesn't mean that other characters can't have arcs. That doesn't mean that there is no theme to the story. Don't confuse theme with character arc. And don't think that just because someone has a flat character arc, that doesn't mean that they can't learn things. That doesn't mean that they won't grow in some ways. They're going to be challenged many times, and this is the part where I can't speak to as well as people who study character arcs in depth, but there's almost like a process. If the person is on a flat character arc, they're going to that it's going to be challenged quite a bit, the truth that they believe, because everybody else, even people they care about, believe in the lie. And so, if you think about Hunger Games, that is a good example. You have everybody in Panem is playing along with this facade that everything is okay and the world is fine and the Hunger Games is somehow conducive to the strength of Panem. Like, you know, everybody believes that lie. They've allowed themselves to believe it, and that they can't revolt against the atrocities of the government. And eventually Katniss brings that truth to them. Indiana Jones is another character that I believe goes through life as kind of a flat arc. He pretty much when he goes into whatever journey that he goes on, he always comes out pretty much the same guy. And then when we catch him on the next journey, he's pretty much doing the same thing. He's got the same kind of flaws that he had before. Not that they're terribly bad or anything, but the real truth that I think you see him bring to society all the time, if you think about just about any ending to those movies, like in the Temple of Doom, he frees the children, right? He doesn't allow the slavery to happen, and at the end of the Temple of Doom, where they're hanging off the bridge, what ends up happening is he drops the stones, and the I don't know, the evil priest, he like tries to grab for them and he falls off and gets eaten by gators. Whereas Indy, he like he's able to grab one, but he is not trying to get all of them, which means like don't try to get all the power, right? That's the theme there. In Raiders, no, not Raiders. Is it Raiders of the Lost Ark? The one where Indy is with his father, Sean Connery. There's an opportunity where Indy can shoot the. Oh no, I'm thinking of. Yeah, that is Raiders. Okay, so I totally messed up. Not the one with Sean Connery, but it is Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a point where Indy has a rocket launcher and he can shoot the bad guys and end everything. But if he does, he'll end up destroying the Ark. And so we see there, even though Indy could do that, he won't, because he believes that like those powers shouldn't be messed with and that they should be shared with everybody, not kept to one person. And then later in that movie, the bad guys, they want all the power. They want to take it all. They want to consume it. They want to use it as a weapon. And what happens? They open the lid, and Indy's like, close your eyes. You weren't meant to see this. This is the power of the gods. This isn't for us. He already knows the truth. And so what happens is, essentially, all the bad guys get wiped out, and Indy and his girlfriend, they're the only ones that survive. And then if you look again, I mean, this is almost a reoccurring theme in all the Indiana Jones films. The one with his father, why can't I not? The Last Crusade, that's what it is. The one with his father where Sean Connery is his father, at the end, Sean Connery has been shot with a bullet. And Indy, he brings the elixir back, gives it to Sean Connery, it saves him. Great. So we see he's giving the power of the boon back to the people, right? And this is particularly important for him because he and his father have a rocky past. And then later on, what we see is whenever there's a flat arc, it's almost like there's a character that's there to depict that flat arc. Initially, we see one of the main bad guys, the main explorer guy. He like when they get into the temple before they've chosen the chalice, he chooses the wrong one. And he basically melts. He dies, right? Like the terrible death. That's because he's trying to take the power all to himself. Indy knows that like the history of Jesus, and he knows that he was just a carpenter, a simple person, but that also means he wouldn't want the power. And so he chooses the right chalice, which allows him to save his father. But then here's what happens. It's not that Indy doesn't get tempted along the way, even though he has a flat arc. You can still be tempted by the lie and tempted by, things that are in contradisposition to the thematic view. So, like at the point very shortly after that, there's like an earthquake, and the girl that's kind of the love interest in this one, she tries to get the chalice and she dies, and then Indy falls and he's put in the same position where he can either get the chalice or not. And the thing is, the chalice represents great power. It would be the find of a century for Indy, but he realizes, and this is partially because his father is there, it's like, no, like just let it go. Let it go. Come back to reality. You don't need that power. The true point of living life is to be with the ones that you love, your family and things like that. Anyways, so I hope you see, and if you don't, go back and watch those movies. Like, Indy is a flat character. There's not much of an arc to him. He's constantly doing the same things, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have an impact on society or that the story is boring. By no means is that what it does. Normally, if there's a flat arc, there's going to be other characters that will represent either different arcs or situations that will show like they were tempted and they failed, but the person with the flat arc, because they have the truth in them already, they don't. And if you look at Katniss, she was willing to die by eating the berries with PETA than to lose her soul, so to speak, by doing what the government wanted them to do, the game makers. And because she revolted against them, that's how she's able to bring that truth of rebellion into the Hunger Games. Anyways, hope this has been helpful. Hope it hasn't been too long. And I'll catch you guys on the other side. Take it easy.